I want to talk a little more about the Trump element. We are just days away from Donald Trump being sworn in to serve his second term. As you know, as we all know, this deal comes at the very end of Biden's presidency, and both presidents have been taking credit for the deal. President-elect Donald Trump said that this epic ceasefire agreement could have only happened as a result of our historic victory in November. And then a reporter asked President Biden during a press conference, who gets credit for getting the deal done, him or Biden, or him or Trump rather, and Biden turns around and goes, "Is that a joke?" So how critical do you think President-elect Donald Trump and his Middle East envoy were in getting this deal across the line?
Well, it may end up being the subject of some debate until we know more about what actually happened in those meetings between Trump's envoy Witkoff and Prime Minister Netanyahu. We may not know precisely why Netanyahu changed his position. As I mentioned, he has reasons for wanting Trump to be happy on Inauguration Day moving forward. He maybe had fewer reasons to satisfy Joe Biden, particularly as it was looking possible that Biden would either lose the 2024 election or not be the candidate at all. I do think Trump is a crucial factor here. As I mentioned, it changes Netanyahu's political calculus and probably gave him reason to make certain concessions that made a deal possible. On the question of credit, I think there is a distinction to be made between who deserves credit and who will be rewarded credit. I think, generally speaking, the perception is that this is a win for Trump. Nobody's really giving this as a win for Biden. And that's a reflection of Biden's position. He's an outgoing president. He did not stand for re-election in 2024. He had to step aside in favor of Harris, who then lost to Trump in fairly decisive fashion. So, it's unfortunate that Biden's team has put in so much work, so much effort over months, only to see the credit go to Trump, but that's politics for you.
As you've said, the deal is pretty much all but done. Phase one could begin as early as Sunday with the release of some hostages. What specifically are you looking for next in the next 40 or so days in phase one to ensure that phase two and then eventually phase three happen?
Well, as I mentioned, the negotiations for phase two are supposed to start after about 16 days. So those negotiations, if they commence and if they are successful, would allow for the continuation of phase two. I do expect there to be almost immediate pressure from Israel, from Netanyahu's cabinet and his government to re-engage the fighting. And that pressure is going to be primarily directed at Trump and at the U.S. There have already been statements from Trump officials, such as incoming National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, to the effect that if Israel chooses to re-engage Hamas, it will receive U.S. support. So there's going to be focus on Hamas, whether Hamas abides by or appears to abide by the terms of the deal, whether Israel fully withdraws from parts of Gaza or whether it changes its deployment and remains inside the territory. That would undermine negotiations for phase two. On the flip side, if Trump focuses on maintaining the peace, on maintaining the deal, on getting more of the hostages out, that will put a lot of pressure on Netanyahu. That could potentially lead to successful negotiations and the movement of the deal into phase two. Again, I think Trump is the key here. If Trump supports Israel and supports Netanyahu, that could very well lead to the deal breaking down, particularly if Hamas chooses to not fully abide by the terms of the deal. On the other hand, if Trump pushes Netanyahu to keep the deal in place, then there's a decent chance that it will last a little longer than phase one.
Well, I have to thank you, per usual, for your insight, your expertise, for breaking this all down for us, especially because it has been moving part after part, especially over the last 48 hours. Gregory Brew, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Always a pleasure.